The movie opens with Max driving rashly as if he is searching for someone. Ellis and his gang members are walking on a street late at night. One of the gang members, Rishi, notices the tire of his motorbike is punctured. He gets upset about seeing it, but Ellis asks him not to worry. Then Ellis orders another gang member, Pete, to get his SUV with trailer and pick up Rishi and his motorbike. Pete gets offended, but Ellis strictly asks him to follow his orders and not argue with him. Tommy doesn't like Ellis's attitude toward Pete and criticizes him. Ellis gets angry and tells Rishi to come with them, asking Tommy to wait for Pete to return. He further urges Pete to drive carefully and park his SUV back at his house. When they have gone, Tommy is seen standing near a pole. Suddenly, a sharp knife gets into his hand, and he screams in pain. Max comes closer and asks him about his missing daughter. Tommy tells him he doesn't know anything about her. Max gets offended and cuts off one of his hands mercilessly. Then, in a flashback, we see Detective Santiago with his colleague Vasquez listening to the news in a car. Santiago reaches an apartment and knocks on the door. An old lady, Wendy Osborne, comes out, and Santiago asks her about her missing son a few years ago. According to the lady, her son was missing when she returned from the grocery store one day. During their discussion, a man comes to deliver an LED to her home. He delivers it and goes. When he is gone, another old lady reaches there, and Wendy starts to abuse her, telling Santiago she had called the police about her missing son. Both the ladies abuse each other for some time, and Santiago feels helpless and doesn't interfere. The next scene shows Max with her boss, Claire, going to have lunch in a restaurant. When they are about to enter, Max's wife, Susan, calls and reminds him about their daughter Ari, whom he forgot to pick her up. She apologizes to Ari, who asks whether he will attend her cheerleading practice. Max tells her it is impossible for him because he is very busy with work. In the same restaurant, Ellis and his gang are taking their lunch too. Max's brother Jerry and his friend Big John come to join them. Jerry is an FBI undercover agent working against Ellis, but no one knows. They tell them Ellis sent them, and Roxy asks them to sit. Later, Ellis joins them and asks Jerry why he wants to join their gang. Jerry tells him he wants to help them. One of the gang members, Kiko, shows his concerns about Jerry, but he tells them they will be happy with his work. Ellis clarifies that this job is not easy, but Jerry tells him he is ready to do it. Max joins Claire after ending his call with Sue. When he is having coffee, he hears Jerry's laugh. He goes to him and asks what he is doing here, as they haven't seen each other for months. Jerry doesn't show a welcoming response and tells him it is not a good time to visit. He asks Max to go as he will call him later. But Max doesn't go, and Jerry strictly asks him to leave. Max doesn't like his attitude but leaves eventually. When he leaves, Jerry tells Ellis that Max is his lawyer, but Ellis seems doubtful about this. Then, he whispers something in Roxy's ear, and she goes to Max. She asks for his business card, and Max gives her the card. She asks him to take up his brother's criminal case, but Claire tells her they are not criminal lawyers. She pretends to be disappointed, but leaves with his card. When she is gone, Claire asks Max about her, but he says he has no idea at all. He has just seen her sitting at a table where Jerry was present too. Later, we see Santiago with his two sons in his car. His sons are arguing with each other, and Santiago is getting disturbed because of this. His elder son, Kai, seeks permission from Santiago to go to Japan, as he has money to do so. He asks Santiago to get the plane tickets, and will pay for the rest. Santiago tells him he will talk to their grandma, as she may do it for them. When his younger son, Ray, listens to it, he insists on going there too, but the elder one tells him he can't go. He gets angry with him and starts to abuse him. Santiago is annoyed at this, and stops them from arguing. Max receives Jerry's call at night, but before he can talk to him, the call gets disconnected. He feels something is wrong with Jerry and calls him back, but he doesn't respond. Later, Sue calls Max, who tells her he is still busy with his presentation that will be held the next day at 9 a.m. Then, he suddenly experiences a brain zap, and Sue asks him whether he has taken his pills or not. He tells her he has not taken the medicine. Sue gets offended and Max apologizes and promises to take it when he returns home. After the call, Susan finds Jerry at her door, which is unusual for her. She asks him to get in. When he reaches, Sue is shocked to see him as he is badly injured. Then, a hand appears and shoots him in his head. The following day, Santiago reaches Max, who is busy giving his presentation. Santiago takes him out and tells him about Jerry and Susan's murder. He is also informed about Ari's kidnapping. Max is shocked and in trauma after knowing all that. During the investigation, Vasquez considers it a crime of passion, where Max might have killed Susan and Jerry, finding them intimate with each other. But Santiago considers Max innocent, telling someone else murdered his family. He asks his co-workers to release Max, but Vasquez disagrees with him. Then, their chief, Captain Daniels, asks Santiago to go and talk to Max. He goes to Max and discusses his past when he was dishonorably discharged from the Navy. He asks him about Jerry, who called him the last night. Then he asks about the people he saw with Jerry at the restaurant. But Max is too upset to answer his questions properly. He asks Santiago about her missing daughter Ari, and Santiago tells him they are searching for her everywhere. He ensures Max he will do everything to find her daughter, as he can understand the pain he is feeling. Max asks him about his sons, and he tells him they are typical teenagers. He also tells him about the problems with his wife, Hannah. Max asks him what he would do if someone killed his whole family. Santiago tells him he would kill them mercilessly so that they would not get a second chance. Then, Daniels comes and sends Santiago outside. He sits with Max, who seeks permission to go to his home. But Daniels asks him not to go there because his house is a crime scene. He asks Max to stay in the police station, but he doesn't agree to abide and leaves for his home. He finds everything out of place with bloodstains when he reaches there. He picks up Ari's drawing and starts to cry. Suddenly, Big John reaches there and attacks him, but he responds in time, knocking him down. Big John tells him he is Jerry's friend and throws his bag at him. Max opens the bag and takes out a hand grenade. He doesn't understand all that and asks for it. He then throws a bunch of keys to Max and tells him they were given to him by Jerry, who asked him to give them to Max if anything happened to him. He then tells Max about Jerry's connection with Ellis, who got suspicious when Max came to the restaurant to see Jerry. He reveals that Jerry's plan failed because Max exposed him to Ellis and his people. Here, Max realizes that Ellis killed Jerry and Susan. Vasquez is outside his home and waiting for him to return. When he doesn't come back after half an hour, she moves to go into his home. Big John tells Max about Ellis's dirty business of human trafficking and selling kids' organs like parts. Later, Vasquez reaches there, and Max asks Big John to tell her everything as she is a cop, but he tells him she is also one of Ellis's gang. Max is surprised, and Big John asks him to leave immediately. Max goes from the back door before Vasquez enters. When she arrives, Big John tells him about Max, who is gone. Then he tells her he came here to look for the cash to bring it to Ellis, but she shoots him on the spot. She then picks up his bag and searches for money but finds nothing in it. She asks for the money, but Big John explodes the hand grenade, killing both of them. Max sees it from outside and goes away immediately. He then goes to Jerry's place and finds some documents on a table. When he is about to turn on his computer, he gets another brain zap and blacks out. At the police station, Daniels tells Santiago about the $50,000 they found in Vasquez's apartment. He suspects Santiago as she was her partner. At this, Santiago gives him his apartment keys and asks him to check everything in it. Daniels shows him Max's file containing his military record, head trauma, and PSTD. He tells him Max also spent a few years at a Massachusetts recovery center. He sees his file and verifies the findings. Daniels asks him to look for his missing daughter, Ari. Santiago agrees and leaves the office. Before leaving, Daniels tells him he will shoot him if he is found involved in any dirty business. The next scene shows Ellis sitting with an elderly lady and her assistant, Kevin, at a restaurant. The lady calls herself Mr. Tank and asks Ellis what he has done with Jerry and the missing money. Ellis tells her he has been working on it. The lady gets angry with him for his wrong judgment and asks him to be careful in the future. Ellis feels apologetic and leaves. Then we see Max returning to his senses and finding a bag hidden under a table. He opens it and sees a lot of money in it. He finds some official documents and learns about Jerry as an FBI agent. He then makes a knife and practices aiming at the target. On the other side, Santiago is seen with his sons in his car, where Ray tells him about Hannah, who got a new boyfriend, but Santiago doesn't reply to him. He drops them off to Hannah, who thanks him for bringing them. She tells him the emergency room was a combat zone today. She then tells him about the bills she is supposed to pay. He asks her to wait till Thursday when he gets paid. He then discusses the possibility of separation, but she tells him their sons need a father. She gets a little upset and leaves. At night, Ellis and his gang are enjoying music at a bar when Ofstian comes and sees Ellis. He is unhappy with him and wants to end his business with him. Ellis tells him about the missing money that Ofstian delivered to Jerry. He then asks Ofstian to deposit the total amount again to finalize the deal, but he disagrees with him, considering it his fault. He leaves, asking Ellis not to contact him again. Ellis is upset and goes to the bathroom, slamming its door. Roxy hears his yelling and gets to him and finds him killing a man there. At the police station, Santiago shows Daniels all the kidnapping records of the last 8 months. He tells Daniels all the missing ones belong to neighborhoods of the city. He notices that most of the reports were filed by people with priors, tweakers, SSI, welfare, and foster parents. The records of all the children on the waiting organ list all over the state show 5% of them dropped from the list later. They are children of wealthy parents, or the ones who acquired large debts or retirement funds. Santiago suspects they sold their children for parts. Ellis is listening to music at his apartment when the doorbell rings. He goes to see and finds his gang members there. He asks them to get in quickly and forbids them to return to his house. Pete tells him about Tommy's murder and the box they got from Ellis's car. Ellis looks upset at this, asking them not to touch anything there, and leaves. When he goes, they abuse him for his behavior. A few moments later, he returns and cleans the table. Roxy opens the box and finds Tommy's hand there. Ellis thinks the firm murdered Tommy as a message to them so that they may return it to them. Pete tells Ellis he will talk to the firm to get things straight for them. Ellis gets furious at this and asks Roxy to kill him. Roxy gets closer to Pete and stabs him in his throat. Blood gushes out of his mouth and falls on the floor. Other members take his body outside, and Ellis cleans the table. Daniels and Santiago call Ofstian to the police station to interrogate him. Santiago asks him about his son Michael, who was on the wait list for a kidney, but suddenly dropped from the list. Ofstian tells them his son got a transplant and is fine now. Daniels asks him where he got a kidney for his son. Ofstian tells them they got it from Huashan Hospital in China. Then Santiago shows him one of his photographs with a box containing the kidney he got from the black market to save his son. He then transported it to China to get the transplant. He saved his son, but took away a child's life whose kidney he got. Listening to this, Ofstian starts to cry and admits he has done it just to save his son. Daniels asks him about the person who contacted him for this purpose, and Ofstian tells him it was Ellis. Max is now chasing Keiko in his car. He stops his car ahead of him and blocks his way. Keiko yells at him, but he doesn't move it. He then turns his car back and gets closer to Keiko, who abuses him loudly. He suddenly throws a sharp knife that gets straight into Keiko's, getting him badly injured. He gets out of his car and tries to shoot Max, who responds in time by throwing another knife into his chest, killing him finally. He then gets Keiko's phone, takes his picture, and leaves. Ellis returns to his home and finds Kevin there with a gun. He asks about the money, and Ellis tells him he is working on that. He gives him 1 week to return the money and leaves. Santiago tries to get more information about Max and his past. He finds Max killed 2 Afghan men for rapping a young girl during his service in the Navy. Meanwhile, Roxy calls Ellis and tells him about Keiko's murder. He is shocked and thinks about the one who is killing his men. Max is busy making more hand grenades at Jerry's place when Keiko's phone rings. He sees a message from Ellis, who wants him to see him at the given location. Max reaches the location with his gun and finds Ellis with Rishi there. He asks Ellis about his daughter Ari, and he tells him he killed his wife and kidnapped Ari just because of Jerry, who deceived him. Then Roxy comes from behind and knocks him down. When he wakes up, he finds himself tied on a stretcher. Then Junior comes and puts fire on a wire. He then burns one of Max's fingers, and he screams in pain. He tells Max he killed his wife, and he will kill him too if he doesn't obey them. He then takes out 2 of his nails mercilessly. Ellis reaches there, removes the wire from his nails, and gives them to Junior. Max again asks him about his daughter, and he tells him she is fine. He asks Max to tell him about his money and gets his daughter back. Ellis agrees to do so. Later, Ellis asks Roxy to kill Junior because he conned him. Santiago reaches Junior and asks him about Ellis. He then finds Max, who is still tied there. He asks Junior to unchain Max. He unchains him and tries to run away, but Santiago puts his gun on him and ties his hands. Max attacks Santiago and knocks him down. He then attacks Junior, too. Roxy and Rishi go to Jerry's place to get the money, where Roxy takes all the secret documents and moves them to Ellis to give them to him. Rishi finds the money and shows it to Roxy, who is delighted to see it. When Rishi tries to get the bag out of the box, he finds it is connected to a bomb that explodes later, killing both of them. Ellis sees the explosion from outside and gets disappointed. When Santiago wakes up, he finds himself in his car. He has no idea who he reached there. He comes out of the car and tries to remember what happened to him. He finds his gun is missing too. Ellis returns to his place only to find Junior brutally killed by Max. He then receives a call and tells the caller he will be there right in time. He then leaves his place and reaches the restaurant where Tank and Kevin are waiting for him. He gives them a briefcase and asks them to conclude the business. Kevin opens the bag and finds very little money in it. He gets furious with Ellis, who shoots them on the spot. Santiago calls Daniels and tells him Ellis is not at his home. Daniels asks him to stay there and keep his open. He forbids him to enter Ellis's home until he gets the warrants. But Santiago is already inside his home and enjoys his cigarette. Later, Ellis reaches his house and finds Max rotating his car there. He throws a jar of ashes from his car and drives away. Ellis chases him in his car while Santiago is watching all that. He also starts to follow Ellis and Max. Following Max, Ellis reaches a factory where Max asks about his daughter. Santiago also reaches there and forbids Max to shoot Ellis. But Max fires at Ellis's hand, getting it injured. Santiago keeps asking not to shoot anymore because other parents want justice too, just like him. At this, Max puts his gun down and surrenders. Santiago ties Ellis's hands, and Max asks him about his daughter. Here, Ellis reveals his daughter is dead now, and her organs are sold. He also threatens Santiago about his son, Ray, whom he wants to kidnap for the organ business. Listening to this, he unchains Ellis and leaves. When Santiago goes, Ellis and Max take out their knives and start to fight. Max stabs Ellis, getting him badly injured. He then brings a bat and beats Ellis to death. At the police station, Santiago receives a call from Hannah and tells her he is ready to do anything she likes. Later, Daniels calls him to his office and shows him the news, where he learns about Ellis's murder. After watching the news, he goes to see his son and wife, who are delighted to see him too. He spends a good time with his family and promises to be with them now. In the last scene, we see Max going to Wendy's house and killing her with the same bat he killed Ellis. Wendy seems to be part of the evil business Ellis and his people were running. Here, the movie ends. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more movies like this.